He's a tough street-fighting lawyer with the highest ratings for honesty and integrity. He's here to answer your legal questions and get you the help you need. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram of Joe Ingram Law. Joe Ingram has more than 20 years' experience fighting for his clients here in the state of Alabama. Joe's focus is criminal defense and family law. You don't have to face your legal issue alone. You've got Joe Ingram on your side. In case of sensitive legal matters, you can always reach out directly to Joe at joeingramlaw.com and arrange for a private consultation. And now, Alabama's defender of the defenseless, protector of the people, and all-around good guy, Joe Ingram.
All right. You're listening to the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105.5 in Birmingham, WBHP up in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. This is a special edition of our show for Memorial Day weekend. Most people are either on the beach, at the lake, or may even be fly fishing up in Montana, is where I'd like to be, and where I hope to be one time this summer is fly fishing up in Montana. I've always wanted to go there. But in all seriousness, Memorial Day is a federal holiday to recognize military personnel who died while serving in the armed services for our country. So we remember all of those today that have served and wear the uniform to protect us. I mean this sincerely. Thank you for your service to our country. You have paid a debt that can never be repaid for what you do every day. Thank you for what you're doing for the service to our country. I had two clients in this week, and both were in the military. One was a new client, and during the course of the interview, I said, well, thank you for your service to our country. And he kind of looked at me. He said, oh, you're welcome, fine. I said, no, I sincerely mean that. Everybody that knows me knows how much I respect and appreciate the military. The new slogan for my firm is, hey, I know Joe Ingram. Call Joe Ingram Law. As always, we ask you to please watch the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or you may even go to my YouTube channel, Joe Ingram Law, and you can look at my YouTube channel and you can see our podcast there. If you are listening to our show, we ask you to download the podcast, share it, like it with your friends and family, even your enemies, people that you don't like. Encourage others to tune in as well. And also, please go to iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating on our podcast. We're growing in the rankings. We're trying to grow the show over the long term on the podcast. We're trying to move up in the rankings. Memorial Day is the unofficial beginning of summer. It's not meteorological summer, but for all intents and purposes, Memorial Day weekend means that we've made it to summer. Can you believe that? We're already into June. Man, half the year's gone. I want to give a shout out to Shelby Fence. Shelby Fence builds fences here in the greater Birmingham area. Commercial, residential, iron, wood, metal. If you need a fence, you need to call Shelby Fence Company. They'll take care of you. They do great work. As always, my office represents people from Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, and Mobile. If you need representation, please call my office, 205-825-5297, 205-825-5297. Talk to an intake specialist. We'll get you set up for a consultation. to assist you for all your legal needs. You can always look us up on the web, Joe Ingram Law. Joe Ingram Law is all you need to know for your legal needs in the state of Alabama. That's all you need to know for your legal needs in Alabama. And go subscribe to my YouTube channel, by the way. Just a couple thoughts from the primaries. We got through the election Tuesday night. I pegged all my races last week. I every prediction I made came true. Just a couple thoughts about the primaries. I predicted Caroline Dobson. She won the primary outright for the Secretary of State for the Republican side of the ticket. The Attorney General on the Republican side got that one right, correct. Catherine Robertson and Jay Mitchell are headed for a runoff coming June. Matt Gentry for the Public Service Commission, he won his race outright. I mean, he won in a landslide. Matt knocked it out of the park. We also had Everett West on back a few months ago. He's running for the United States Senate on the Democratic side of the ticket. He's headed for a runoff as well for the United States Senate. On the Republican side of the United States Senate, I got that prediction correct as well. Barry Moore and Jared Hudson are in the runoff. And I called that race. I predicted it. And, you know, I have followed all the candidates. I followed all the issues. I've gone and watched people speak. I've watched the polls. I've read the polls, read the numbers. And I saw Jared surging the last 8 weeks. In the amount of speaking engagements he was doing, and also the amount of enthusiasm that Jared Hudson had generated the last 8 weeks. I told you he was going to make the runoff. And I went by his party Tuesday night. When the polls started coming out, Jared didn't look concerned at all. I mean, he was full of adrenaline. He wasn't concerned one bit about the polls. And it wasn't until about maybe 10 o'clock that the numbers started really ticking up, and you could see that he was going to make the runoff. And I think he beat Marshall by, I think it was, 3 points, something like that? Yeah. So I picked every race. I picked it right. I should be I should be picking the horses at the Derby. So we got all those races. And one thing that concerns me, and I don't understand, I think for statewide, I think the turnout was less than 30%. Not sure on that. And here's what I don't understand. If the turnout was so low, why does it take to 10:30 or 11 o'clock to get some good results for the election statewide? Why? I don't get it. Anyway, it's all good. I enjoy watching every bit of it. But I wasn't sure why it took so long. Second thought I want to talk about really fast about the primaries from last week. I told you last week that last Saturday that the Democrats were going to march down in Montgomery, and they did. And they brought in some national figures, and one of them. Now, the Democratic Party needs to hire me to be a political consultant. You need to go hire a Republican to be a political consultant for the Democratic Party in Alabama. Here's why. Guess who they brought in? AOC. Alexandria Cortez. She's a socialist. That's like bringing nuclear waste to your state if you're a red state. Now, you can take her to any blue state you want to. Why would you bring AOC to the deep south of Alabama, which is a red state, has had a Republican governor going on 2 decades. We have almost every statewide race there is. The state legislature, the state house is Republican. Why would you bring AOC here? That's just tone deaf. It doesn't help you. Hire me as a political consultant for the Democratic Party. I won't charge you a whole lot. I promise you. I don't know. I may charge you a premium because you don't know how to think. Oh, my goodness. So they brought in some heavy hitters from all over the country. And you don't bring a socialist here. America is about capitalism, exceptionalism. You can be anything you want to be here. AOC made a statement about 2 weeks ago that she said that you could not make $1 billion. She actually said, you cannot make $1 billion. You have to steal it. No, ma'am, you're wrong. People in this country create products, companies. Look at Bezos. Look at Bill Gates. All these guys that created all these .com companies. Steve Jobs. All these people built companies. Facebook. They didn't steal it. It's called American capitalism. That's what you want. You don't want socialism where everybody gets the same thing. In this country, if you're willing to trade your time and work hard enough, anybody can be successful. You can make as much money as you want to. You can do anything in this country that you want to do if you have the initiative. So for the Alabama Democratic Party, if you want to hire me as a political consultant, please call me. I'll talk to you about it. I'll get you a good price. Last comment about last weekend. And this goes back to New York. The other socialist, Mandami, he took a statement from President Ronald Reagan. He had this famous speech one time. He said, the last 9 words you want to hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. And he turned it around and said, actually, I'm from the government and we are here to help you. No, you're not. I don't want the government taking care of me. The last thing I want is the government in my life. And they really believe this. They believe the government has a duty to run your life from cradle to the grave. No, I don't want you in my life. And I don't want to pay for all your social programs. Get off my dime. If somebody brings children in the world, let them raise them. I don't want to be responsible for them. My goodness, how tone deaf can you be? And the governor of New York, Hochul, she told everybody 2 years ago all the money to move to Florida after COVID. Guess what? About a month ago, she was on TV saying, could all the billionaires and millionaires in Florida, could you come back to New York to support our social programs? Could you please come back? No, we're not coming back. Florida's a free state. You're killing yourself. As far as the constitutional amendments that were on the ballot, 2 that got through. One is a tide that approved was tied to Aniah's law. Aniah's law allows judges the ability to deny bond to a criminal defendant who is accused of certain crimes, primarily crimes of violence. Aniah's law gives judges the ability to deny bail, obviously in capital cases, somebody charged with capital murder, kidnapping in the first degree, rape in the first degree, sexual torture, domestic violence in the first degree, human trafficking, arson first degree, robbery first degree, terrorism, and unfortunately, the aggravated child abuse cases. And yes, folks, there are a lot of aggravated child abuse cases in the state of Alabama. So Aniah's law has been expanded, and under the amendment, the following criminal acts are also included: solicitation, attempt, or conspiracy to commit murder, shooting or discharging a firearm or explosive into an occupied dwelling, building, car, or vehicle or truck. We're moving into the summer months, and we are going to shift a little bit. We're going to be doing a lot more content, and we are going to have some different type of guests on. We're looking at having on some community leaders around the Birmingham area. Hopefully, we're going to have maybe some mayors or some police chiefs to talk about what's happening in the Birmingham communities and suburbs. So we're going to share that with you in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing a lot more legal content now that the primaries are coming to an end. And there is a person that was on the show the first season. Been in touch with them. We're going to try to get them to come back maybe once a month. They are a professor, and they're off for the summer, and said, hey, I said, well, would you come hang out with me once a month? He said, yeah, we're going to try to work it out. So that may be coming up. Finally, the goal is for Friday, June the 4th. We are going to start having the video of the radio show go on my YouTube channel. We've been working on this for a while, and if we get all the kinks worked out, you can start watching the podcast on my YouTube channel. Now, the show will actually be delayed a week. So the show that we do on June the 4th, you won't see for a week later because the production company has to put the entire show together. But I don't have a voice for radio. I certainly do not have a face for TV. But if you're really, really bored, you can go to my YouTube channel and start watching the show starting here in June. Okay, that covers all that. Covers all the good stuff. Today, we're going to talk about some divorce information in this first hour. And then in the second hour, we're going to cover some criminal information. And we'll talk a little bit about the guests that might be coming up. The first thing I want to talk about is successful habits for the right person as your spouse or your partner in your life, or even the right job for your matter. We're concerned about your mental health here. Choosing the right person, right job, the right people to be around. One thing to keep in mind, keep your circle small, because there are very few people in this world that you can actually trust. If you tell me that you've got a lot of friends and you tell them all your personal business, you're making a big mistake. Keep your circle small. Don't discuss your finances. Do not discuss your dreams, your hopes, your goals. Wait till they happen. Don't tell anybody. Choosing the right partner will literally make you feel unhappy. It can even make you physically, potentially ill. And your body will react in a number of ways. Your nervous system will not relax around the wrong person. You may always feel anxious, confused. It'll make you feel emotionally unsafe. Your body stays in a stressed state, the state of fight or flight all the time. That'll happen to you if you're around the wrong person. You can experience chronic stress. It's going to affect your sleep. It can affect your digestive system. It'll affect your energy levels. So you may try to excuse this, but your body treats it, and your body really knows what's happening. And your physical body and your mental body and your spiritual body will be subjected if you were in a bad relationship or anything like that. Second, emotional instability creates physical exhaustion. If you are fighting constantly, and when I say fighting, I don't mean physical fighting. I'm talking about arguing, having disputes, things like that. If you're constantly fighting with your significant other, screaming, yelling, it creates mixed signals. There's uncertainty. It drains you mentally, your energy. Over time, this turns into fatigue. You experience decreased motivation, and eventually you just burn out. You feel tired from the relationship, not because you're physically tired or you're mentally tired. You're just mentally tired of being in the situation you're in with the person you're in. Your body knows. Stress hormones can change your appearance. High stress increases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is what makes you gain weight without you realizing it. If you have too much cortisol in you, you can gain weight. It can affect your skin. It can affect your overall health, your hair. This is why your hair falls out when you're stressed out. You're in a toxic environment. The body reflects the pressure it lives under. And even though you might think you can keep this bottled up, you can't. Your body knows what's going on. And just take a minute and think about this. Every 4 years when we elect a president, the newscasters always say, look at President Trump 4 years ago to President Trump today. Look how he's aged in 4 years. Look at the presidency, whether it's George W. Bush Jr., President Obama, President Bill Clinton, President Trump. The weight and the stress of that pressure that it puts on your body, they look exhausted after 4 or 8 years. I mean, they're just gone. Obama went white-headed after 8 years. George W. Bush was exhausted from the Iraq wars. Bill Clinton, he didn't have the kind of struggles that Bush or Obama had. He was worn out too. And if you look at Trump now, Trump, from 16 to now, Trump's in bad shape. I'm sorry, folks. I'm a Trumper. I'm a neocon. President Trump does not look well. He looks exhausted to me. I am seriously concerned about him making it the next 2 years. I know they say he's got a lot of adrenaline. I know they say he sleeps 4 hours a night. I would really like for him to take 2 weeks off. And I want him to take the presidential vacation that they all take in August. Take a month off in August. Just go away. You can be president anywhere in the world. Just go play golf. He needs some time away. So that's what stress can do to your body. And if you're not in the right job, leave, run. Life is too short to be in a job that you're unhappy in, okay? If you get up every day and you hate going to work, you need to go find something else to do because life is too short to be in a job that you don't like. So we're talking about successful habits of being in the right relationship, having the right partner or the right job. We're going to go to the break in a minute, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the rest of this list. So just to recap, this is a special edition of the Legal Lowdown. It's Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for everybody that has worn the uniform. Thank you for serving our country. It is the unofficial beginning to the summer holiday. Most of you are at the beach, at the lake, or a buddy of mine is fly fishing up in Montana. We'll be back after news and weather. We'll be back.
listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. And now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right, this is Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105.5 in Birmingham, WBHP in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. This is the second segment of the first hour of the Memorial Day weekend show. So before the break, we started on some divorce information about successful habits for picking the right person, right partner, or even for the matter of being in the right job for you. And so this is really good information that I've been working on here. We just got through talking about high levels of cortisol that can cause you to gain weight, be stressed out, your hair can fall out, things like that. Bad relationship, bad partnership, bad marriage. You lose yourself trying to maintain the connection to adjust your behavior, your tone, your needs, your expectations just to keep the peace. You'll do anything just to keep things going, to keep things on an even keel. The internal conflict creates emotional tension every time you see that person. And I was just thinking, there are some opposing counsel. Every time I see them, my cortisol level goes up and my blood pressure goes up as well. Oh, goodness. Your body tenses up and you go into that fight or flight stage. You identify whether you're having a good day or bad day with that person or that situation that you're in. It can make you feel unstable, unsafe. Conflict resolution affects your overall well-being. The best thing that I have learned that I try to counsel my clients on that are going through a divorce, when the initial divorce complaint is filed, and it's going to turn ugly right after it hits the fan. I always tell my client, if you're in the house with them and it goes bad, leave, run. Do not put yourself in a position where they can make it a domestic violence call. Do not let them make a decision where they can turn it into a PFA, protection from abuse order. If you have to remove yourself physically so it doesn't become so bad verbally, then do that. Okay? Don't let the other side set you up so that it hurts you in the long run. The wrong partner disrupts healthy habits if you're not getting enough sleep. And everybody needs more sleep than others. Some people need 8, some people need 6, some of us get by on 4. And yes, I sleep 4 hours a night. If you are not taking care of yourself, if you're not having your disciplined habits, such as your exercise, if you're not watching your diet, you have lack of focus, your routine breaks down because your mind is occupied with the bad environment that you're in or that you've put yourself in. Over the long term, this damages both your mental and physical health. It is so important for all of us that in today's society, we need to put the phones down when you get home. You need to unplug. Do not sit in front of the TV and stare at Instagram or Facebook or the Fox News or CNN or BBC or whatever you watch on your phone, or check your emails. Put the phone down when you get home. That's family time. Get the amount of sleep that you need. Get up, whether you have coffee, protein shake, take your vitamins. I have about 12 vitamins I take every morning. And I have all these substances I put in my protein shake, collagen, all these things to make your hair and your nails grow as you get older. Self-maintenance. Take care of yourself. Get your exercise in. If I do not run, if I miss 2 or 3 days in a row, people can tell in the office and people can tell at home. Joe, have you run in a few days? No, I've been kind of busy. Why don't you go run today and do us all a favor? I get it. Self-maintenance. Drink a lot of water. Get your exercise. Get your sleep. Take care of your physical and mental health. Put the phone down when you get home. Spend some quality time with your spouse. Watch TV. Read a book. Listen to music. Go to sleep. That's what you got to do. You got to take care of yourself. Peaceful relationships improve your overall health. When you feel emotionally safe, when you feel heard, and this is important for my female clients, they'll tell me, I don't feel like my husband hears me when I speak. He's tone deaf. He's just not really listening to you. When you feel really heard, when you feel valued as a person, meaning when I talk to you, you're looking at me and you're listening to me, your body becomes more relaxed. You have a better quality of life. You have a stable mood. You may even think more clearly. And overall, generally, you're more healthy as a person, and you'll behave better as a person. The right person, the right condition, the right job, the right situation supports your system instead of breaking you down. And I know it seems so simplistic, but sometimes you just have to hear it to remind yourself of what's really important. You work hard all day, go home, do not look at office emails. I've talked a lot about this. This is not my line. Your body keeps the score even when you try to ignore it. This is a line that came from a book that I have read several times. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. It's from a famous psychiatrist who taught at Harvard University, Dr. Van der Kolk. Dr. Van der Kolk. It's a very big book. It's about 800 pages. You better get ready to spend about 2 months to read this. Because it's a hard read. I mean, it's not an easy read. But during the course of this book, you will come to understand that mentally you justify behavior, but your body still reacts. This is kind of like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. You could experience headaches, chest pains. Your sleep patterns are off. You may have low appetite. You may overeat. Yes, some of us overeat when we're under stress. All of these are signals that you are in a situation of fight or flight. Believe it or not, folks, if you've ever experienced really physical, serious trauma or mental trauma, and then you're back in that situation, your body will remember the trauma, and it will react, whether you want to knowingly or unknowingly. Your body is going to react to the environment it's being put in. Your body detects stress before your mind will accept it. I'm going to say that one more time. Your body will detect stress before your mind will accept it. Your body keeps the score. Your body knows what it's been through before. And it's hard to explain to people that haven't been through that. But if you've ever been through a traumatic experience, whether it's physical stress or mental stress, and you get put back in that situation again, your body knows how to react to it. Your muscles, your joints, it knows how to shut down and save itself. Emotional safety affects how you carry yourself if you are in the wrong relationship, or if you're with the wrong person, or if you're in the wrong job. If you hate getting up, going to work every day, you become guarded. You ever had a job where on Sunday afternoon about 3 o'clock, you start dreading Monday morning at 8 o'clock? That's a sign that you need to think about a new job. If you're that unhappy on Sunday afternoon thinking about Monday morning, it's time to go. You're tense, you're hyper, you're aware. Your adrenaline may already be rushing, thinking about Monday morning. Oh, and by the way, did you know that more heart attacks happen on Monday morning than any other day of the week? It's a fact. You go back to work, your body gets ramped up on adrenaline, thinking about everything you got to do that week, and that's when people have heart attacks. Go look it up. It's a fact. If you are really stressed out, it can also affect your posture, how you walk, how you carry your problems on your shoulder that are weighing you down, just like the saying about the cross that you bear. Your tone, your voice, your energy levels, even your facial expressions over time can be affected by being in the wrong relationship, the wrong partner, the wrong job. When I go into a room, I try to always go in with a smile, greet people, whether I enjoy working with that person or if I'm not in the courtroom, in a meeting, deposition, conference room, whatever. Try to go in with an open mind, even if you've had a hard time working with this person or opposing counsel, until over time the situation, the job, the marriage, whatever, the interaction has beat you down and your body reacts before you even realize it. That's when it's time to call it a day. And it takes a while for people to get there. I had a new client this week. Honest to goodness, he should have pulled the plug 3 years ago. And something new happened this week. It was very serious allegation. And he said, Joe, we got to pull the plug. He didn't want to do it. He wants to keep his family intact because he wants to keep his children under one roof. But he said, I can't do it anymore. We're just not going to make it another 15 years for the children to get grown. He was really torn. He sat in front of me in my conference room and cried. And there's nothing wrong with crying, even for a grown man. It's a tough decision. But he said, I can't do this anymore. I got to pull the plug. It's a hard decision to make. Took him 3 years to get there, to make that decision this week. The right person is like the perfect mustard, ketchup, olive oil, WD-40. It could even be the best stock fund in your 401k plan. The right situation doesn't disrupt your life. You're calmer. You think more clearly. You like the people you're around. Your energy improves because your nervous system is not under a constant pressure of fight or flight. You have good, healthy relationships. They make you a better person. They restore who you are. You look forward to seeing that person every day. Hopefully, you look forward to waking up and seeing your significant other or your spouse every day. If you are in a bad marriage, if you are in a bad relationship, or if you're in a bad job, struggling, wherever you are, take some time. I want you to go away. Take a weekend, go away. I want you to get a sheet of paper out. And I want you to draw a line right down the center of the paper. And on one side, I want you to do the pros of staying in this relationship or in this job. And on the other side of the paper, I want you to write down what are the negatives of staying in this relationship or in this job or whatever it is. Pros and cons. I want you to go away, get out a sheet of paper, put it down. Whichever side wins, that's where you go. That's my advice to you professionally. If the good outweighs the bad, stay. If the bad outweighs the good, go. Run for your life. It's too short to be miserable every day. Every action, every situation, every time you have to go to work, every time you see that spouse, every time you have to go to that job, life is too short to be miserable every day of your life. Time is short. The greatest commodity on this earth is time. You can't get time back. And unfortunately for me, the older you get, time moves faster. Every year, the clock moves faster for me. Honest to goodness, we're almost in June. It's just flying by. You can't get time back. So, when people come to me and we talk about divorce, this next subject comes up an awful lot. I have people that are religious, go to church. They go, well, Joe, how do you square divorce with religion? What does the Bible say about divorce? And I say, well, have you talked with your pastor? Have you talked with your spiritual leader? That's not really my job to be a pastor. Now, I'm a counselor too. You're an attorney and a counselor at law, but I'm not really your counselor. But this is what I have come to accept about religion and divorce. For those that come to me and ask me about a religious divorce, infidelity, and what the Bible talks about a biblical divorce. What is biblically acceptable reasons for a divorce? Under what conditions is divorce allowed in the Bible? What are the 4 A's of a divorce? What are the 4 A's of a divorce? Every marriage is unique. Certain patterns and issues frequently contribute to marital breakdown. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is a framework for understanding the big 4 A's, as we call this. Adultery, abandonment, abuse, addiction. The 4 A's of a divorce, according to the Bible. Adultery, abandonment, abuse, and addiction. The biggest mistake during a divorce is letting your emotions dictate financial decisions and not adequately planning for your future, which often leads to costly one-sided settlement agreements. Other critical facts and errors include children being used as pawn in a divorce, hiding assets or selling assets off or moving assets to other family members, rushing to settle and sign a divorce agreement. Joe, I want this over today. Just get it done. I don't care what it is. Just sign it. And not hiring a qualified legal representative. Last two I want to talk a great deal about. I tell people all the time, a divorce agreement is a contract. It is. It's like buying or selling a business. Your marriage is a business. I'm sorry, folks, it is. Would you sell a business in a day that was highly profitable? No. Would you buy or sell a business today that you had to determine what the value of the assets, liabilities, and debts are? No. You do not make a financial decision today and look back in 12 months and go, I rushed to the table to sign the paper. I wish I could do this again. Because there's only three things you can modify from a divorce decree: child support, visitation, child custody, and alimony. There's four, actually. Child support, child custody, visitation, alimony. Property settlements cannot be modified in a divorce decree. So there is no reason to rush and sign a piece of paper until you know everything you need to know before you sign a divorce contract, a divorce agreement. And having a lawyer. Now, I did an uncontested divorce just last week. They were both educated people. They both had PhDs. One spouse said, I'm qualified. I can handle this. Okay, great. I don't represent you. I represent the other party. What you just don't know is what you just signed, because there's some language in there that benefits my client in the property settlement that doesn't benefit you, because you're not taught to write legally. So you didn't read the paragraph really well, but thank you for signing it anyway. You're going to find out in about 12 months what you just signed on to. I have people come to me, and this is no knock. What is that thing called? What's it called? LegalZoom? The online legal forums. Is that the name of it? So yeah, these online products where you can try to do your own divorce agreements. Please don't do that, folks. Let me tell you why. It's not that I'm saying that I'm trying to make your money. Here's why. Just filling out some forms and trying to file them with the court, 99% of the time, the court rejects those divorce agreements. And here's why. There is a pattern in which you have to file divorce documents. You have to file a complaint. You have to answer the complaint. Then if one party or both of you do not have counsel, you have to file a document saying you have non-representation of a lawyer. Then you file an agreement. Then you have to file either child support forms to say that you followed the guidelines or you didn't follow the child support guidelines. And then you have to file some testimony of the plaintiff for the court to grant you a divorce. And then you have to file the most important document, which is called the order of a final judgment of divorce that the judge signs. If any of those documents are not filed in order, the court just dismisses the case. And guess what? You paid a filing fee. You thought, I did an uncontested divorce for $500. No, you didn't. You just blew $700 between that and the filing fee, and you're still not divorced. I had one person come to me. Honest to goodness, this lady said, Mr. Ingram, I've tried to do an online divorce 3 times. It's been rejected every time. Can you guarantee me this is going to get done? I said, ma'am, under the Alabama State Bar Rules of Ethics, I can't promise you or guarantee you anything, but I can make sure you understand this. There is a high probability that I'm going to get it right the first time than you. That's all I'm going to say. We're about to go to break. This weekend, go out and see the Alabama Symphony. They're going to be playing if you can get around the weather. I know the weather's a big deal this weekend. We're still talking about some divorce issues. This is really good content today. You're listening to the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Your Alabama lawyer on WERC in Birmingham, WBHP in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. We'll be back at the top of the hour after news and weather. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram of Joe Ingram Law. Don't forget to follow Joe's Legal Lowdown podcast on iHeart. If you need a private legal consultation, reach out to Joe on his website, joeingramlaw.com. Tune in again next Saturday for the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by any other lawyer. You're listening to the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. And now, welcome back to the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right, this is the Legal Lowdown. This is a special edition of the Memorial Day weekend of the Legal Lowdown. WERC in Birmingham, WBHP in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. If you are not at the beach, if you're not at the lake, and if you're not fly fishing in Montana, where a buddy of mine is this weekend, he didn't take me fly fishing, but I think I'm hoping to get to go this summer. Go see the Alabama Symphony this weekend. I think it's Railroad Park. I think they're playing 3 days consecutively. If you can get through the weather, go see the symphony in the park. Symphony's really good here in Birmingham. We've been talking about some divorce content today. And before we went to break, we were talking about the 4 A's of the 4 A's of divorce. When people come in and they say, Joe, what does a biblical divorce look like to you? Can I do this because of my religion? And I'm not here to get in a religious debate with anybody, but I believe these are the 4 that may qualify for you if you find yourself in this situation. Adultery, abandonment, abuse, and addiction. First of all, I want to say something, and I mean this with all sincerity. Just because one party has been unfaithful, has stepped outside the bounds of the marriage, has been committed adultery, does not necessarily mean that you cannot stay in that marriage or put your marriage back together. The 2 of you are in that marriage. If you can go to a pastor, a counselor, if you can get past it and you can save your family, it's okay to do that. There's nothing that says just because somebody has been unfaithful that has to end your marriage. Abandonment. Now, we have a legal term for legal abandonment in the state of Alabama. If your spouse just gets up and abandons the family, like the father, and he's got a wife and 2 kids, and he runs away, quits his job, and he's gone for 2 or 3 years, well, yeah, that qualifies for abandonment and to end it. Abuse. We got all types of abuse. We have physical abuse. We have mental abuse. verbal abuse. One is not more important than the other. Just because you're not physically being beat up, if you're being verbally beat down every day in your marriage, every time you come in the door, criticized for everything you do, that's a very unhealthy relationship to be in. Either you or your spouse needs some counseling, anger management, whatever it is. You can only take it so long. The abuse of a marriage. Addiction. Now, I can think of 4 types of addiction. There are alcohol addiction, drug addiction. There is people that use pornography as an addiction. And then there is also what we call gambling addiction. Not one of these is more important than the other. I've had clients that fall into all 4 buckets here. They may be an alcoholic, and you can be a functioning alcoholic. Honest to goodness, you can be able to work 90 hours a week, and when you get home, you don't drink tea or water or Coke or soda. You hit liquor or you hit beer until you hit the bed. You can be a functioning alcoholic. And then there are those that even can drink during the job at lunchtime and function the rest of the day. And then there are drug addicts. And I'm not talking about necessarily hardcore drugs. I'm talking about abusing prescription drugs, Klonopin, Xanax, anxiety drugs. Or they may be not necessarily on marijuana. They could be addicted to cocaine or heroin. I had a client one time. He was addicted to fentanyl. And the thing that saved his life is he got stopped, got popped for a DUI, had to go home, share it with his spouse. We put him in rehab. Saved his marriage. He went through some criminal issues, but we got the help that he needed to save him. And then gambling addiction. Gambling is a big problem in this world now. There are people that gamble with bookies for sports, college football, NFL, baseball, basketball. There's online gambling. There are people that go to these slot machines here all over Birmingham. There are places where you can go play the slot machines. There are the dog races. There's all kind of gambling. And people that have a gambling addiction, you are taking money away from your family. That's part of the family budget. Unless you make a lot of money and you can hide your gambling addiction, it can really affect your family. And I had a pastor one time that gave a speech, and he talked about people that had a pornography addiction. And he said those are people that are extremely depressed, and they are looking for an outlet to find a way to find joy. Anybody that has any type of addiction is using something to make themselves feel better. So those are the 4 A's of a biblical divorce. Key mistakes to avoid during a divorce. Letting your emotions drive your financial business decisions. Allowing anger or being hurt to lead to unnecessary legal battles over assets can result in high legal fees, which is good for me. I hate to say this. In one way, I like the ones that really like to fight for a little while. I do, even though I encourage them not to do this. But there are those that do that, and I'm going to tell you a story here in a minute about that this week, that exceed the value of the items in dispute. I had a divorce case that I just settled in the last week, folks. My client was very happy last week. And he said, Joe, I don't care what I paid you. It was worth it. We won. No, we didn't win. Nobody wins in a divorce, but I know how you feel. You feel like you won. And then we got down to close to settling the case. And honest to goodness, we were fighting over the stuff in the house that I hate to fight about, whether it's the picture on the wall or who bought this in the bathroom or who bought this in the den. And I'm thinking there's two ways I like to handle this. I say, let's put two numbers in a hat, 1 and 2. And whoever draws first, you draw first or you draw second. So you get to draw the first item and then second, and then it's picky 1, picky 2, and all that. I hate all that crap. And I told my client, I said, man, everything you're fighting over right here, I said, do you know what you pay me? I said, do you know you could replace all of this for what you pay me an hour? It doesn't matter. Just let it go. It's stuff. But it was important to him. He thought he was winning. So we sat there for 10 hours that day during a mediation and fought over all the stuff. And at the end of this case, my client was so happy. Oh, this is such a good feeling. When you have a happy client, he said, Joe, I'd like to give you a gift. I said, you don't give me a gift. I don't get tips. You paid me for what I earned. He said, no, I want to give you something. What can I give you? I said, well, I like a good cigar and I like a good glass of scotch. This week, he brought me a box. It is a limited edition bottle of single malt scotch. It has a number on it. I looked at this. I was like, oh, my goodness. We haven't opened it yet. I'm going to save it for the 4th of July for the 250th anniversary of our independence. I think I'm going to break it for the 4th of July. That was my gift for the divorce case. So thank you to my client. Failing to plan financially. Not understanding your financial situation, meaning your assets, your debts, your expenses, can lead to an unstable, unfair settlement. This includes neglecting to consider long-term tax implications of asset division. Now, when I get into this, we're talking about when we divide up such as stocks, financial assets, 401ks. If we do a quadro, which is called a qualified domestic relations order, typically speaking, there is not a tax implication to transfer the money from one spouse to the other. However, if you choose to sell the money you just received, and presumably if it went up in value, you're going to pay a tax on the gain, meaning whatever your basis is, if it goes up in value, your tax is going to be based on the profit between what you sold it for and what you got it for. Your basis. That's what we're talking about in long-term tax implications there. And something to think about here is when you get a divorce, you need to sit down and think about what your financial budget looks like at home. And then you need to think about what your budget is going to look like when you go live on your own. You're still going to have power. You're going to have internet. You're going to have water. You're going to have food. You're going to have all the expenses you had when you were married. You're just going to have half the income coming in, presumably, to live on. So you have to think about your budget and whether your lifestyle is going to change after the divorce. I want to back up just a second. Allowing anger to lead to unnecessary legal fights. Sometimes when my clients come in, they are so bitter and angry and ready to go. They're like, Joe, just go file everything. Just go to war. And I try to counsel them. You know, there are things to fight about, and there's things to try to think about and decide if it is worth having the fight. That's a tough conversation to have with a client going through a divorce or a domestic dispute. You want to represent your client. You're an advocate for your client, but you want to give them wise counsel that every issue is not worth fighting over. Sometimes it's better just to let them take the stuff and go than fight over two lawyers, because the lawyers are the ones that are going to come out well in the end. We talked about this briefly just a minute ago. Neglecting to hire a lawyer. Attempting to handle your own divorce case without professional guidance can result in a long-term negative consequence, especially regarding child custody and property division. There are levels of custody that we've created: sole custody, joint custody, primary custody. All these terms mean something, where you start from, and then where you have to go to if you have to try to overturn custody or get custody of your children because they're in a bad situation. And obviously property division. I had someone call me about a month ago. Mr. Ingram, heard you on the air. Me and my spouse, we did our own divorce, and I made a mistake in the property settlement, and I'd like to go back and fix it. Can you do that for me? I said, well, it depends. Is uncontested divorce? Yes, sir, it was. Well, do you think your spouse is going to agree to amend to give you that money from his 401k plan? I don't think he will. Well, then I can't help you, because unless he's willing to amend the property settlement, we can't. You lost out. You made a bad decision to do it the cheap way. Sometimes you have to hire a professional. You wouldn't try to do your own knee surgery. You wouldn't try to fix your own car that needs the transmission replaced. I certainly couldn't work on my car. I go to somebody that knows how to work on cars. And I'm certainly not going to do surgery on my own knee. So why do you think you're ready to be a lawyer? It's not as simple as you think. We talked about this earlier. Using children as pawns in a divorce case is a bad decision, and it's going to really go south for you if we have to try that case in front of a judge, because a divorce case is a bench trial. Using your children for information or to manipulate the other parent causes significant emotional harm to the child and rarely helps your case. Couple thoughts here. One, that's called parental alienation. If you and your spouse are separated and your children are going back and forth, and your children are, say, between the ages of 6 and let's just say 15, and you go, hey, you went to your dad's this weekend. What's going on at your dad's house? Was he drinking over there? Was he using drugs? What's that bum doing now? You do not you do not ever talk about a divorce with your children. The divorce is between you and your spouse. Unfortunately, your children are just a third-party beneficiary to this contract agreement. They got enough baggage already from dealing with the divorce without you putting them in the middle and using them as a pawn to discover information or badmouth the other parent. Please don't do that. Please do not do that. Hiding assets. Attempting to hide assets or inflate debts is unethical, illegal, and can lead to severe penalties, including loss of credibility and unfavorable settlements. I had a case one time that involved a person that had a construction company, and this person also owned a building and supply company. The building and supply company sold equipment to the construction company to go build buildings. This person spent a whole bunch of money to put a lot of inventory in the building and supply business. And then it turns out this person said, but we're not building any buildings right now. We're having a slow season. We're not making any money, Joe. See, what they did is they took all their money, they ran up the inventory to put in the building and supply business. But they said we had a slowdown in the construction side of the business. And we actually sent in some undercover contractors to the building and supply business. And we said, hey, can we buy this equipment here? And they said, it's not for sale. It's just for our contractors that we use. Oh, okay. So we can't buy anything here, even though this is a building and supply store. Well, it's a building and supply store, but it's typically used for our contractors that buy from us. Okay. Well, just out of curiosity, if I were to buy this hammer that's here, how much would this hammer cost? Now, you go to Lowe's, hammer's probably, $4, $5, $7. I don't know. But just for the purpose, they said, oh, this hammer's like $21. So what they did is they inflated the prices so nobody would buy anything in that store. So the store was full of inventory, but they weren't selling anything. What they did is, they took all the money and they hid it in the building and supply. Judge did not like that when we had a hearing, brought the witnesses in. It goes to your credibility, and it looks like you're trying to hide money till you get to the end of the case. And then you decide to go back to work and start building buildings again. And I'm going to talk about that case next week because that's a really good case that involved a financial expert, and the building and supply business was owned by 4 members of the family, and they were drawing a dividend every 3 months on the profits of the building and supply business. That is a fascinating story. I can't wait to talk about that next week. Rushing the process. Settling too quickly just to be done can lead to a poor, irreversible decision regarding alimony and property. Had a client one time, housewife, wonderful lady. The husband was an alcoholic, and she had taken the initiative to go get a job, to get employment, and she hired me to represent her. And she told me, she said, my husband's an alcoholic. That's why I'm getting a divorce. My kids can't take it anymore. She'd been married over 25 years. He had a good job. He had a lot of money in his retirement account, made really good income. And she said, oh, he's going to sign. He's going to settle. He's going to give me, I just need this to survive, Joe. I just need this to survive, just to live on, to get the kids out of the high school. And I said, ma'am, if you will just hang on with me for a little while, this will go a whole lot better. And after we had 2 temporary hearings, the husband had to agree to go into rehab for his alcoholism. He spent like 30 days in rehab. And when he came out, he was a better person. The news, we're about to go to the break, news and weather. We'll come back and we'll have the final segment of the special Memorial Weekend show. We'll be back.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. And now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right, this is Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105.5 in Birmingham, WBHP up in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. This special edition for Memorial Day weekend. Thanks to all the veterans and people that wear the uniform out there for serving our country. This is the final segment. We've been talking about some really good divorce information today. Okay, so I want to tell you my story real fast about this divorce case that happened 20 years ago. Okay, we were talking about hiding assets and being unethical. One spouse had a construction company, and the spouse also owned a building and supply company. The building and supply company sold materials to the construction company. So think of it this way. You take money in your right pocket and you sell it to money in your left pocket. And then you turn around and you use it to build a building, and you receive money for building that in the construction company, right? Very simple. All right, here's the good part. The building and supply business had 4 owners. So it was like the matriarch of the family, the father, and 3 of the siblings that owned the building and supply business. And here's how they treated the building and supply business. They paid themselves in a quarterly dividend. And the business did so well that each of them received roughly $15,000 a quarter as a dividend distribution for the building and supply business. So that means you're making $60,000 a year as a shareholder of the building and supply business, or $240,000 a year for the whole value of the distribution. And so I had the other spouse, and I had to get a financial expert. I said, we need to find out what the value is of the building and supply business, because they spent all the money to run up the inventory in the building. And then they said, but we're not building anything. They were sitting on their money. They were waiting until it was over, trying to be cute, play games. And so my expert goes down there and does a tally and values up the inventory of the whole building. And then he looks at the tax returns, and he says, Joe, this is $60,000 a year income to the one spouse. I said, yeah. He said, so if we get 50%, they would get 30. I said, yeah, I like that number. It's a good number. Really like that. And I said, well, tell me something else I want to know. What's that? I said, what is the value of the building and supply business? In other words, if we were going to sell the building and supply business on the open market, what would be the value? What's a reasonable value of that business as an asset? We did some math. You look at goodwill, you look at profits, didn't have any debt, did not have any debt. And so we valued, that a fourth of the stock of the building and supply business is worth roughly $500,000. Oh, I love that number. This was 20 years ago. So we did all the discovery, swapped documents, took depositions of both sides. No one asked about my financial expert. No one asked to depose the financial expert. No one asked what his opinion was going to be in a courtroom as to what he was going to testify to. And the reason this happened was because I was really young. I guess they didn't know what I knew. But this person didn't know how to read tax returns. This person didn't know how to read financial documents. They didn't know how to read a balance sheet, an income statement, asset and liabilities. And so on the day of trial, we were about to go in the courtroom. And I looked at the opposing counsel and I said, would you like to know what my financial expert's going to testify to today? And the counsel said, what? And I said, well, the building and supply business is generating a $60,000 distribution to your client, so I would get half of that, which would be $30,000. Now, that's just a kicker to what we think we're going to get in alimony. Oh, and by the way, he's also going to testify as to the value of the stock. That the building and supply business stock is worth $2 million. A quarter of that is worth $500,000. So we're going to ask for half of the value, which would be $250,000 of stock. You got to love these moments that happen in a courtroom. It's live. It's not TV. And we were about to walk in the courtroom, and we opened the door, and opposing counsel said, Judge, can we have 2 minutes? He said, I'm ready to start the trial. Let's get this thing going. He looked at his client, and he said, Joe says it's $60,000 dividend, $500,000 value of the stock. So you're either looking at $30,000 in alimony or $250,000 of the value of the stock. That was major. That changed the game that day. We actually went into a side room. We settled the divorce case that day. My client received half of the distribution of the stock, and she also received 25% of the other person's stock. She was very happy. And so when we left that day, I told her, I said, in about a year, give me a call, put it on your calendar. We're going to make another trade in a year. She said, what are we doing in a year? I said, we're going to make another trade. This was a very closed family. I said, we're going to call them and see if they want to buy the stock back. And she didn't have the financial understanding to realize what I was saying. I said, we're going to sell them back their family stock in the business. She said, oh, okay, I get it now. And so about a year later, I had forgotten all about it, didn't put it on my calendar. I get a call. Joe, you told me to call you in a year. I'm calling you now. Oh, good. Do you want to sell the stock? Yeah, if you think you can do it. All right, we'll give them a ring. I call them up. Hey, would you like to buy back your 25% of your stock in your building and supply business? Absolutely. We want to keep it a family business. We want our stock back. Okay. Well, based upon my expert last year, we're going to sell you that stock back for $250,000 cash. What? I said, well, that's what he's going to testify to is the value. And it may be more now because I'm sure y'all have all gone back to work and started building some businesses that y'all were sitting on for almost 18 months. I said, would you like for me to do a new analysis? No, we don't want to do that again. No. Yeah, because you went back to work. I figured that out. I'm not an idiot. So we sold the stock back to the family matriarch for $250,000. And my client was extremely happy with that trade as well. That's a good story that involves serious assets in a divorce case that make what I do fun and makes me happy to make sure people get their fair share in a divorce case. We're talking about key mistakes during a divorce case. Ignoring social media. Sometimes I overlook this. Sometimes I forget to talk about this. And sometimes it comes back to me and bites me in a bad way after the case gets kicked off. And I'm getting better about this because I'm not really big into social media. Posting inappropriate content on social media can be used against you in a courtroom. In today's society, everybody wants to run to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. What else is there? What else is there? I guess that's the big ones. And post everything in their life that's going on, even during a divorce, or posting bad stuff about your spouse during the divorce. Why would you do that? Or posting, this is a new one, and this is stupid. You're posting a picture of you and your new significant other on the beach during a divorce. Why would you do that for me? Why do you make my job any harder than it has to be? I got a call one day. Joe, your client has, a significant other. How do you know that? Because go look at their Facebook page. I said, oh, okay, let me go look. During a divorce, just take a time out. Lock down your social media. It can be used against you, and it can hurt you significantly in a courtroom. And you do not need to be using your children as a pawn on social media in a way that, hey, when the kids are with me, this is all the fun they have, as opposed to when they go to the other person's house, how bad it is. It's just a new thing we have that we didn't have 20 years ago, is having to deal with social media in a divorce case. And you know what the other thing that drives me crazy in a divorce case now? Texting. Somebody sent me the other day, oh my goodness, it locked up our email on Outlook. Sent me like 85 pages of text exchange between them and their spouse. And I got to go read all this crap. Texting is the worst form of communication that has ever been invented. I don't text anybody ever other than I'll meet you at 5 or I'm late or this or that. I hate texting. It's just a bad form of communication. And just don't get in a fight with your spouse on texting during divorce. It's going to show up on a big screen TV, and you got to explain what you said to your spouse in front of a judge. It's just, it doesn't go well. It never does. Never does. All right, this is what we're leading into, dating too soon. I had this one happen last week after a hearing. well, Joe, can I go ahead and start dating again? We filed for divorce. I'm like, let's get out of this before we go start the next train wreck. I don't know. Starting a new relationship before the divorce is final can complicate your legal proceeding, will have an effect on your custodial arrangement. My advice has always been, please take at least 6 months after a divorce or up to a year to heal yourself. Figure out who you are as a person. Or after a really long-term marriage, what went wrong? And I'm going to tell you something, and you're not going to like this, and you're probably going to make you mad. It takes two people to end a marriage. Rarely can you tell me I have zero fault in a divorce. It's the other person's fault that we're getting a divorce. Rarely does that happen. It takes two to keep a marriage, and it takes two to kill a marriage. You need to go do some housekeeping. Go back to my sheet of paper. Take out a sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle. Tell me what you think you did good. Tell me what you think you did bad in the marriage. Tell me what you think you need to work on as a person. Tell me what you think you did well as a person. Do some journal writing. Go get a counselor. Invest in yourself for a while. Because if you do not fix whatever is wrong, you're going to carry all that baggage into the new relationship that you're going to walk into. So many times people run into the new relationship and they carry the baggage that they didn't fix from the prior relationship. Happens so many times. So many times I've seen it. Take 6 months. Date them. Go to dinner. Have a friend. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't marry them. Don't give them a key to your house or your apartment, and don't move in with them. Just take a time out. Just take some time out. We're talking about key mistakes during a divorce. Be honest with your lawyer. You're sitting there thinking, oh, yeah, I tell my lawyer everything. No, you would be surprised how many times I find out later information. In fact, sometimes I'm the last person to know something. That is what I love. When I am the last one to know something in the room about what's about to happen. I love that. I had this happen to me last week in a county far, far away from here. Oh, I was lost. Please provide complete information to avoid being at a disadvantage in a courtroom. Please do not have your lawyer walk in a courtroom and turn around and say, who's that person over there? Oh, that's my new significant other. I think they're going to call him to testify. I didn't know you had a significant other. Well, you didn't ask me. Okay, well, I'm asking now. You have to be candid with your lawyer. We're bound by attorney-client privilege. We don't disclose it. You just don't want to be caught off foot. You don't want to be surprised. You want to know what the truth is, what we're dealing with in a divorce case. Gather important documents. Get bank statements, 2 years of bank statements, 2 to 5 years of tax returns, and even 10 if you've been married more than 20. Early on in the process, 401k statements, stocks returns, stock statements, all the information that you need to make good decisions when you sit down and talk to a divorce lawyer. That's real important to know. Understand, update your estate planning after you get divorced. And the people I did this week, the uncontested divorce, I said, hey, when this is over, we need to update your divorce or your will and your trust, because it's going to change now since you're getting a divorce. If you don't do this, if you don't update your legal documents, such as your durable power of attorney, your living will, they can pull the plug on you. Your ex-spouse could still have the decision to pull the plug when you die if you don't change that. Your will, your power of attorney, your living will, or your advance directive, all those need to be updated and changed when you get officially divorced. So we've covered a lot of good divorce information today, and I hope you've enjoyed it in our special edition of the Memorial Day weekend of the Legal Lowdown. We got about 6 minutes left? Yeah, pretty close. Anybody out there that we didn't get to the criminal portion today, and here's why, because we covered the divorce stuff. But it's summertime, and believe it or not, in the summer, domestic violence cases go up. I don't know why. I guess it has something to do with people getting hot, and so they act out emotionally. Domestic violence cases go up in the summer. Protection from abuse cases go up in the summer. I don't know why. We're going to talk about domestic violence cases next week. We're going to talk about how important of a tool this can be used when you file for divorce. We're going to talk about if you violate a PFA, protection from abuse order. That can lead to a criminal charge, and that can lead to jail time for violation of a PFA. And if you have a vindictive spouse, they're going to do everything they can to make your life miserable. So why would you give them the chance to be vindictive on you? We're going to talk about domestic violence cases and why this goes so hand in hand with nasty, ugly divorce cases in today's time. We did not have the level of PFAs 20 years ago that we do now. Judges are more likely to grant a PFA now than they were 20 years ago. And here's why. Judges are elected. There is not a judge in the state of Alabama that wants to deny a PFA, protection from abuse order, and then something happened on Saturday night. Wife shoots husband in a parking lot during the divorce. Oh, and by the way, the husband tried to file a PFA a week ago, and the judge denied it. Details at 10 on the news. And that makes the judge look bad. So I had the issue in front of me. I could have done something to prevent this. I could have made sure that the guns were taken away from the people. I could have made sure that they had to stay apart. I didn't do my job, and now somebody died. This happens all the time. That's why judges are more likely than not to grant PFAs now, is to prevent people from having domestic disputes, physical, really serious disputes when they are going through a divorce. Final thought for the week. You are what you think about. Everything that you think about, you become. Thoughts lead to actions. Actions lead to behaviors. Behaviors lead to lifestyle. Lifestyle determines your destiny. So everything begins in the mind. If you can control and wield your mind, you can very much determine your control, your mind, and your future. That's the final work of the week. You've been listening to the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. It's the Memorial Day weekend holiday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoy the beach. I hope you enjoy the lake. I hope my buddy enjoys fly fishing up in Montana without me, buddy. And for all of you that wear the uniform, thank you for your service to our country. You're going to enjoy the summer with us, folks. The people we've got coming up, you're gonna learn a lot from them. We're working on those. It's kind of hard to do that in the summer because everybody wants to take off, but we're working on that, and you're going to learn some good information this summer. I want this to be fun, educational, and I want you to take something away from this that makes you a better person every day in your life. That is my goal of this program. So y'all have a good weekend out there. Be safe. Stay out of the weather. If you can, go see the Alabama Symphony. I don't know if anything else big is happening this weekend around. Oh, is the SEC in town for the baseball yet? I saw in Hoover painted down there by the Hoover Met, but I'm not sure. I don't follow baseball. I'm not a baseball dude. Never been into baseball. But anyway, y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Gotta go. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram of Joe Ingram Law. Don't forget to follow Joe's Legal Lowdown podcast on iHeart. If you need a private legal consultation, reach out to Joe on his website, joeingramlaw.com. Tune in again next Saturday for the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by any other lawyer.